Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of SheRises, Amplify, and Thrive live speaker series, where we are here again to honor and just highlight one of our amazing spiritual masters. And as you know, this program really is here to support those spiritual masters, healers, gurus, whatever you want to, whatever you want to call yourself. If you have a message, that's what we're here to spread. And so I'm super excited about our guest today. And the other thing is that I am always excited about is that every donation that you give, 100% of it goes to the SheRises Foundation, where we are helping amazing women who are in those underserved, in those marginalized communities, really step into their empowerment, their leadership through entrepreneurship, again, through leadership, through any means that we can to help elevate and rise them and just support them. So everybody that does donate, I just want to already give you a shout out and just share my gratitude with you. But, we're here to do great things, and that's what we're here to do. So we're going to keep moving on. And today I have Stephanie. I'm going to say it wrong again.
Rao.
Rao. Okay, I put it down and I'm like, wait a minute, what was that? So today we have Stephanie Rouch, and Stephanie is a spiritual coach and certified intuition practitioner who helps women reconnect with their inner wisdom and creates lives aligned with their true selves. Loving it already. She does have a PhD and background in occupational therapy, and she once followed a scripted path of success, ignoring her intuition. But a moment of deep honesty in 2021 sparked a personal transformation through therapy, movement, and meditation. Now she blends neuroscience, energy work, and visualization to help women release overgiving and integrate suppressed parts of themselves and design powerful, soul aligned lives. Her work is rooted in both science and spirit, offering clarity, healing, and freedom. And welcome today to our show. I am super excited to have you. I cannot wait for everyone to hear what we're going to be talking about today. But before we start diving in, is there anything that I missed or anything that you would like to share with the audience before I already have my first question of what I want to ask you, but
Well, that was a great intro. It's always very humbling to hear that. And I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity and for the work that you're doing with the SheRises Foundation.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's because of great people like you and our guests that are here that's always supporting it. So I'm going to say that's probably the best part of it is all the support. So thank you so much. All right, let's talk about your business, Paradigm Expansions. Just the name of itself is, I'm like, I feel like it's so loaded with so much goodness. So, what does that mean? Tell us about your business.
Absolutely. So Paradigm Expansions was born out of a year where I had this beautiful transformation, as you said, and was thinking about the word paradigm a lot. For some reason, paradigm kept coming up. And I don't think that I really learned that word until 2021 or 22, where I had heard it before, but I didn't know what it meant. And so then it was coming up all the time. And I thought about paradigm even as a limiting word in a sense, where like my definition of paradigm was, oh, this is a small box. And as I explored the word more, it was more powerful of like paradigm offers us the opportunity to shift our perspective at any time. And then we hear paradigm shift as often going together. And so I was really interested in this idea of shifting perspective. And this is something that has always interested me. Like if you've ever done the exercise where you point your finger towards the ceiling as if there's a clock on the ceiling, and then move your finger in a clockwise direction. And then you keep moving your finger in a clockwise direction until it's below your face. And then you look at it from above, and all of a sudden your finger is going counterclockwise. So, like, what a beautiful
I'm like,
example of a paradigm shift. Do you want
yeah,
to try it to see what
I've
I'm talking
never
about?
done that. I'm like, I have to try this. Okay,
Okay, go
so
ahead and try it.
So it's over your head.
Yep, you point over your head and you move your finger in a clockwise direction as
Okay.
if your finger is following the clock. And now
Okay.
just keep that movement going and slowly bring your arm down and keep bringing it down until it's below your face. And now take a look at it. In what direction is it going?
It's going counterclockwise. That's
Isn't that cool?
yes.
Isn't
Oh
that cool?
my gosh. That is amazing. I love it.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I learned something new today. I'm going to teach everybody that. I was like, do this trick.
It's a great trick. Everyone should use it. I didn't come up with it, so there's no credit needed. I don't know who first came up with it, but it's a beautiful trick. And this is a paradigm shift of like, oh, I thought the world was one way, but now when I look from another perspective, maybe from someone else's perspective, I see a different reality. And I love that. I love that. And paradigm expansions came about because there were a number of things in my life where I felt like, but I'm not shifting from clockwise to counterclockwise. I'm shifting to still include who I am in all of the things that I've learned and just expanding the paradigm. So that's really how the name came about of when we grow and evolve spiritually, it doesn't mean leaving behind. It's not a black and white thing of like, I once thought it was that, but it's really that. It's bringing our whole selves into a new future self. And so it's just expanding to include what you already are. So that's how the name came about.
Yes. Oh, I
Mhm,
love that. Expanding who you already are. I think sometimes we have the idea that when we're in this space and we start to expand, that we become this completely different person.
mhm.
And even when you expand, you are the same person. It's just another level of you. It doesn't change who you honestly who your soul is and what you came here to be.
Mhm.
So I really do love that. Oh, I love it. And the fact that I learned a trick today. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like when I was looking at it, I was all, wait a minute. So
Yeah.
cool. But it is very, but like that's so true. So I'm glad that you encouraged that because I think there is that misconception that, well, if I expand, I have to be this whole other person. And so
Mhm.
that's the expectation. And when it isn't this whole new person, people think that they're doing it wrong or there's something
Yeah.
wrong with them. And that's not the case. It's just
Mhm.
you're just I always call it leveling up. I'm like, you're just leveling up to the next awesome version that you are. So I love that. Okay,
Thank
so
you. And I want to add something to that
yeah.
because it's totally in line with what you're saying, where I have had people who either have been friends or who have worked with me before say, I want to meditate, but I have this part of me, I have like whether it's the monkey mind or the perfectionist or this part of me that I need to overcome in order to get to that next step. And we all have that instinct, right? Like there's something in me that just needs to be fixed so I can do away with it. I need to do away with my shadow. I need to do away with the perfectionist part. I need to do away with my shame and guilt and my fear so that I can become the evolved version. And in my experience, while I still have a lot to learn, that's just not true. Like it's I accept all these parts of myself and bring it with me. And that acceptance, then it does kind of soften whatever the shame and the fear is, but it's even like loving those parts. I love the inner child in me that is bringing about that fear to try to keep me safe. Like I love that part of me. And what a wonderful thing that she was trying to protect me all that time, but I don't need to get rid of her. And so yeah, the expansion is like you can love your whole self, even those pieces that feel like they need to be erased.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh, I feel like that's such a strong statement because but like we also live in a society that makes us think that we're broken, so you have to fix that or you can't be that anymore. And you know what, like you are who you are, like you can't get rid of it,
Yeah.
so why not embrace it and also those shadow sides that you have because they are who you are. And like here in my experience, like the more that I love them, exactly like we said, the softer that they become.
Yeah.
And we began to create this, this relationship together where we can ebb and flow instead of being separate from each other and me trying to get rid of it.
Yes.
So I think that is beautiful. And I love that you bring up the inner child. When you were talking about that, I was thinking about the ego. Like, how often are we trying to dissolve the ego? Like,
Mm.
our ego, our ego should be our buddy. It's our protector. It's just, and when my ego brings up fear, and I actually appreciate it because it gives me an opportunity to go, okay, so how can I work with you so that we can work together to overcome that? And then,
Mhm.
move forward.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love
Yep.
that you said that.
Mhm.
And I don't want to get rid of my inner child. I love little Kelly. She's rowdy as hell.
Mhm.
you
She
know?
comes with pouting, but
Yep.
she comes with fun too and playfulness. Hmm.
Yes, for sure. I don't want to get rid of her. Uh,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, absolutely. It's all about embracing every part of you. So, well, like I'm like, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Um, okay, so tell us about your personal connection to the benefit of integrating science with spirituality, because I think we have this idea that there is science and then there is spirituality, and
Yeah.
there's space in between, and neither one of them can come into that space to combine.
Right.
So
Yes.
I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. It does feel that way culturally that they're separate. And I will say that more and more there seem to be more people. I don't know if it's my perspective that I'm looking for it more and finding it, or if there actually are more people now figuring out ways to integrate them. But where they really are, to me, two sides of the same coin of looking for truth. And is it that we're looking for truth from a science side through like objective physical reality, or are we looking for truth through that subjective felt sense reality? And and both of them are looking for that same outcome, and they are woven together. The more I look at it, the more I see how they're woven together. And a number of other spiritual masters have explained how they're woven together, how like physics is inseparable from intuition, which is so beautiful. One of my teachers, Kim Chesney, has a couple books on that and has even interviewed the like, extremely smart physicists of our current time to find how a lot of physics concepts that are cutting edge are almost proving the reality of our intuitive capacity. That it's not a woo-woo thing. It's just a thing that science has yet to understand and explain in a systematic way. But other ways too that they're connected is this kind of what I was saying, this objective and subjective reality. And what's so interesting is culturally, in the Western cultural paradigm, we love objective truth that can be physically proven. But there are cultures, and I don't want to overgeneralize which cultures, but there are cultures that even in the past have put a lot more weight on subjective experience of, well, I need to run that truth through my own body before just believing what someone else has written in a paper. And so that's really illuminating where we may be operating in our own cultural paradigm and thinking that science, let's say, has greater weight than spirituality or vice versa, but people have thought both ways. And so when we're trying to arrive at truth, there's a lot of benefit of looking at them both and seeing what the similarities are in what we're seeing in science and what we're seeing in spirituality. And what is coming out in neuroscience is is so beautiful for we're also seeing in common spiritual teachings. Simple things like what fires together wires together, or concepts of neuroplasticity, of how practiced thoughts and practiced habits predict the future, but not because the past predicts the future, just because we neuroscientists have now been able to show the more we follow certain thought paths in our brain, we just make it easier to walk on those grooves, and just like a trigger can happen and boom, that's the circuit we're going to take, but that doesn't mean that it's true. It's just that's the circuit. And it is possible to shift and create other grooves, which in spirituality is like that's been around for a long time of whether it's in the personal development like arena or not, but that's been around a long time of praying and surrendering and opening up to other ways of being. And so like, what beauty that they're both coming to similar conclusions.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love anything that's connected to neuroscience in the brain and like
Mhm.
the way we can literally recreate those neural pathways to be something entirely different.
Mhm.
And we can and we can and we do and we can do it through thought. And that's how powerful and energetically powerful our thoughts can be, that if we, you know, I mean, I have a confession. So I used to think, oh my gosh, sitting there doing affirmations every day, how dull, how boring.
Yeah.
And and then I started thinking, I think there's a thing to this.
Mm.
So I started, so in that, like in the mirror, when I need to change something, every morning, every evening, I say what it is in the mirror. And
Mm.
it's almost like I could, like, you can almost feel it like hardwiring into that new groove, right?
Yeah.
But it's so amazing. So I do have a question for you, because I
Okay.
do love the fact that science and spirituality are starting to come together. um, and I'm curious about your opinion on this, because I often thought, when we talk about science, if they can't quote unquote prove it right then and there, usually what they do is they throw it out. They're like,
Yeah.
we'll get rid of it, right? But I always wondered, I'm like, why throw it out? Because what if the missing piece is really that spiritual, like this, that part is spirituality. And if we actually stepped into that, then all of these things that we have thrown out as science, we may be able to bring together and create, something that's really amazing. And I know we're
Mm.
starting to slowly blend that, but
Mm.
I guess my question to you is, have you ever thought, like, maybe, instead of like with science, like I said, they throw it out and that the missing piece is actually that spirituality piece?
Oh man, it's a really good question, and it comes. Oh, Camille, yes, said great question. I I want to share. I don't know. Like I'm only going to be skimming the surface on this, and and it's going to have me thinking too. But if we think back to specifically in the United States, the way that we structure grant making and funding, and then the studies that come out that are well funded, were like considering those, maybe in this context, considering those to be evidence-based in science. But
Mhm.
in the 60s and 70s, there were really fascinating studies using psychedelics, using meditation, using spirituality that were coming out of Harvard and coming out of big name schools. And even Ram Dass, who was a Harvard professor, and I forget his name before Ram Dass, was one of the leaders in looking at the effects that psychedelics, and maybe he studied meditation as well. I can't recall, but that was grouped in around that time. And just where we were culturally and politically in the Reagan era and beyond, there was a lot of fear. There was Vietnam, there was, I mean, heels of World War II, and there were other fears around people becoming liberated and like protesting against the government of like, we don't want to go to Vietnam War, we want peace. And the government, for some reason, the like people want to be elected, people want to maintain power, and it really shifted what the National Institutes of Health and other government agencies were willing to fund. And so we kind of in the late 70s and 80s, the funding for psychedelics and other spirituality type modalities dropped off completely. And then the really smart scientists who wanted to have a successful research career kind of pivoted into more more fundable types of projects like nutrition and exercise, and things that were more palatable to be funded. And so there's pretty good evidence on that. But there's we're just 50 years behind in where we could have been in understanding how much spirituality and how much energy work and other modalities could have really powerful effects on our health. And there's an amazing book out right now called Healing Ourselves that's written by a neuroscientist named Shamani Jain. Healing Ourselves, beautiful book, and she summarizes some of the best research out there right now related to energy work. And she gives a few examples of like one placebo effect, how like for a while we have not tolerated the placebo effect as being something one that could actually be used and to, like it's almost an annoyance to, or at least in the past 10 years that's really changed, but it's been an annoyance of like, well, we need to control for the placebo effect through giving people like through just talking to people, and then we'll compare just talking to people to another type of intervention instead of feeling like the placebo effect, how is the placebo effect for heart surgery or for blood pressure medications or for antidepressants, how is the placebo effect performing so well compared to these physical modalities? And some people were asking those questions, but it was just not really tolerated in spaces where you could get funding. So there's been a lot of that like rumblings of over the past 50 years of people wanting to study it. It's just not explicitly been funded. And I think that that's starting to shift. And so the placebo effect is one thing, but Shamini Jain in her book even talks about some amazing studies of very talented energy healers having meaningful effect on doing energy work on mice who have cancer or on cancer cells in a petri dish. And they're being it's not 100% of the time, but some of the time they're being a meaningful effect in how that cancer is operating on a cell in a petri dish. It's incredible. So we haven't gotten to the point that I know of that happening in humans. Maybe it is happening somewhere and I just don't know about it, or it's like not as mainstream. But I feel like that could be shifting in the next decade.
You know what, I agree with that. I do feel like we are shifting
Mhm.
in that. So I have several things about what you just said. So
Mhm.
I want to go back to the placebo.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna share a little something with you. So like when I was doing my master's degree program, it was in psychology, and you gotta, when you're doing a master's program, you gotta take your stats class, right?
Yeah.
So I anyways, long story short, I had fired back asking questions about the placebo, and I just had posed to my teacher and like the group, like, what if the placebo is actually the thing that heals
Mm.
instead of, giving medication? And because I have this thing about medication, because I've worked a long time in behavioral health, especially with people who are deemed as seriously mentally ill. My opinion is different. I think they're incredibly gifted.
Mhm.
But what we do is we just pump their bodies full of medication, right?
Yeah.
And research shows that it takes at a minimum of 15 to almost 20 years off their life.
Oh.
But which I'm like, oh, are we doing that to people? Because we want them to be a specific way, right? I'm going
Mhm.
to digress here, but I'll get back onto the
No
thing. I
problem.
realized I started going off on another tangent.
Yeah.
But like I had posed to the community, like, what are your thoughts about the placebo? Like actually being the modality, the thing that heals versus medication. And and the other thing that I posed is maybe the medication is really working because it is that placebo effect, like it would be like if you were doing a placebo and they think, oh my gosh, I'm taking this medication. And maybe the medication really isn't working because in across the studies, right? Your control groups and everything, it really is just the placebo.
Mhm.
And I really started thinking about that. And I was like, and to me, the placebo is what are my thoughts on how this is working, right? And thoughts are so powerful that they literally can change your life,
Yeah.
you know? And so the reason I bring this up, because I do feel like now we are moving more towards that, doing more holistic healing rather than our Western medicine healing. But I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, I got murdered and massacred in that community
Yeah.
because and it was like, well, research shows this, and like I fired back and I said, well, why are we believing everything that we're reading? Like, why couldn't we take this perspective on it? And I just remembered I got so massacred in that thing. And even my teacher fired back at me as if to say, like, that thought is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I do feel like now we are moving towards that, because when we talk about, like I said, like I've worked so much in like behavioral health. Like, even when I hate to say, when we place people in facilities because we think they need something, now they're incorporating things like yoga and meditation and Reiki and things like that.
And art.
Yes, art and music, and you know what I mean? All those things that,
Mhm.
like, honestly, like 5, 10 years ago, it wouldn't even happen.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I feel like I was kind of on my soapbox a little bit, but I do feel like we're moving towards that. I wish we could move faster towards that,
Me too.
but yeah. Oh, I love your
Well,
thought on
it's it's a beautiful point, Kelly, and you were ahead of your time in seeing these studies and being like, what about the placebo effect? And thankfully, there are other researchers who have gotten funding in the more recent terms to be able to study what does the placebo effect do, like not just as an annoying, how do we control for this, but as like, let's dive into this. And Shamini Jain in this book, Healing Ourselves, I think you would love this book. She she says the placebo effect comes from this Latin word that that I forget what it means, but it comes from a time when there were people who were distraught and going to their priests, and the priest didn't know what to do. They were either sick or distraught, and there was some reason for it. And I just don't recall what it is, but so if you read the book, you'll get the full story. And they were going to them, and the priests were like, I guess we'll give you a cross and tell you that you're better. Like Jesus has heard your prayer and you're better. And the people, and they didn't know what they were doing, but the people were getting better. And that that was placebo came from that, as placebo meant like whatever that offering was. And now the word has transformed into meaning almost like you may think sham, or you may think like trick, and it doesn't, that's not how the word originally was intended, or like what the etymology of it is. And there are now people, when people look at, well, what all goes into placebo effect, it is things like, do I trust my provider, or do I trust whatever this ritual is to heal me? And do I expect to get better? That, like, when you have trust and expectation and a few other components, that there is a really powerful force for healing. And a lot of spiritual teachers and energy workers intuitively know that and build on it, because it's not that those are the only pieces that work, and it's not that physical intervention doesn't sometimes have a really positive effect, but for surgery to work, you have to have that in there. And there are even, she talks about this in her book, that it's just so fascinating. There are recent studies looking at sham surgeries to look at the placebo effect of surgery, showing that sometimes people with a sham surgery have just as good of an outcome as people with a surgery. It's not all the time, but it is sometimes. And so something about like how powerful the ritual of surgery is for us culturally, and the trust that we have in surgeons, while doctor maybe has gone down the list and trust a little bit, there still is a lot of trust in surgeons. If like you are doing something really physical to my body, I expect that that's going to change whatever issue I'm having. That those pieces together are sometimes enough to prompt whatever healing it is that you need. And I just wanted to look at some of the things that Camille said in the chat, that there is also the documented Ho'opono where the doctor did not use any meds on people in the mental institution in Hawaii, and people did they get better, Camille, from this, from just that trust that they had?
They closed the mental institution because all after the treatment, I don't remember how long the treatment was, but all all people who were in that supposed institution after the treatment was finished, I think it took about a year, they all walked out, quote unquote, sane.
Wow. Wow. Wow, with no meds. So
No, no
there
meds.
there are there are what a beautiful example of how people have tapped into this power before. And Kelly, as an intuitive, you have had experiences like this with people of having miracles happen all the time, just from these other elements, from like what may be even more powerful than physical energy, but being able to shift at whatever energy level is more in the 5D, and how that can directly influence the 3D.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks for sharing that, Camille. You know what, I had heard about that and that happening in Hawaii, and like, um, and correct me if I'm wrong, Camille, like it was like so many people were like in disbelief. Like if I recall, when I had read about that, they were, it was almost like they were, I don't want to use the word accusing, but like kind of alluding to that they really did use something else, but it was only, I always get this wrong. It's the Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Thank you.
But don't
Yeah.
but don't don't say that around Hawaiians, because when I talk to people of actual Hawaiian descent, they said that is not true Ho'oponopono. True Ho'oponopono is it's actually more the idea that you air your dirty laundry with the person that you have the trouble with, the issues with. And that's what Ho'oponopono is. What this actually is an example of is more what Jesus did, and sees people in their true form of not being sick and being whole. That is
Mm.
what was more displayed. But whomever did this initial documentation, because it was in Hawaii, they wanted to put a Hawaiian spin on it, so they used this word. So just talk, just an FYI, if you're around someone who is from Hawaii, just don't use that word in that sense, because that's not the true practice of it. So but that's what it's become known in the spiritual world, and I get the rolled eyes.
But well, but like it's true, right? Like I love, thank you for sharing that. But it is true. But I think, you know, I think in this spiritual world, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I do love about the spiritual world is that we truly don't see people as broken. We see them as whole, and just, and it goes back to your paradigm expansion. We're just helping them really step into that next level of who they are, right? No one is
Mhm.
broken. We all came here whole. We're still whole. We're just learning and experiencing so that we can have that paradigm expansion, right? And that, well, that I'm like, that was my opinion, but um yes. So sorry, I want to comment on another thing that you said, you know, when, and you had pointed out that like in spiritual, like in spirituality, we know that this is one of the
Mhm.
ways, not the only way.
Mhm.
And so I feel like we do have more of an expansive and objective view on things, because you know, we can do energy work, and like, but we can also do surgery at the same time, or we can do energy work and you can still take your blood pressure medicine. And I think in our eyes, we're supporting the, the healthiness and like I was going to say the cure or whatever it is of what's happening, that one can support the other, right? Where I feel like there are some people that they're like, nope, that's a hard no, it is only this. You know what I mean? I have to only take my blood pressure medication. And I guess I'm just sharing a statement, but it's nice to see that we're now moving towards, well, you can do this and this. And we may not really know which one really worked, but what we do know is that we did it together and it worked. Like we put them together and they worked. You know what I mean? So,
That reminds me of another point about your story of really being massacred for bringing up the placebo effect by your peers and by your teacher, that we do the one thing, this is almost paradoxical, but one thing that seems to get in the way of healing is and even to Camille's point of what Ho'opono actually is, to get in the way of positive relationships is an insistence on being right. And our ego loves this, and I love being right. I love being right, and a lot of suffering I think can come from the commitment to being right. And and there is a freedom that comes with being willing to admit that I don't know everything, that I can't always explain that, and that the world is bigger, and that I have a flashlight, I have a headlamp in my life awareness, and there's a whole giant landscape of what life is, and what I'm experiencing is just whatever I'm flashing my light on at any given moment. And so there's so much to the story that we're not going to necessarily understand at any given time. So it's like both well, this is what I'm going to look at. So I'm following this path, but I'm also going to be open that there's more to the story. So then there's freedom to be able to shift what I'm looking at any given time and move in the direction of what feels aligned, and move in the direction of love and expansion, because love really is the universal intelligence and the universal language. And so being right can, I think, kind of be an obstacle, be something that gets in the way.
oh, big
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that this is shifting too, but I feel like our society really encourages people to stand strong in your rightness.
Hmm.
And we become very, we've got the blinders on and we have become very narrow-minded or one-sided.
Hmm.
When the truth is, there is so much to this world that we have no idea about. And, I feel like if you're going to be standing stuck in that cement of wanting to be right, you're going to miss out on all of the other amazing wonders that this
Yeah.
world can bring. I really feel like we haven't even tapped the surface of of really of these times in this world that we're living in. And I'm like, I mean, the one part of me, I'm like, I want to know it all, like show it all to me. But I think we do kind of get stuck in that narrow-mindedness of I have to be right. This is the only way that it can be done. That's it. Um,
Fear comes with that.
yes.
Shame comes with that. What if I'm wrong? Then there's shame. And they must be wrong. I'm right and they must be wrong. And then like it just leads into all of this chaos that's that's that doesn't necessarily have to be there. And it's still a part of the dance. It's not even like it's not something we have to avoid because it's so bad, but it's just like, oh, that there's so much more to and just the exercise that we did at the beginning, like, of course we could be looking at the same thing and see something totally different. That totally makes sense.
That, and you know
Mhm.
what, but that's what makes us so cool, right? Is to be able, is to like, we have billions of people on this
Mhm.
planet, and none of us see anything exactly the same. Even this conversation that we're having, my perspective of it isn't like, is different from your perspective of it. Do you know the way that you're seeing it? Yet we're having the same conversation. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just think that's so cool that, you know, you could just go to somebody else and get in and like get a different perspective, or even a a slight shift in that perspective.
Mhm.
And it can open up a whole nother door. Oh, so cool. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation that we're having. But I do want to shift gears just a little bit. Unless
Let's do it.
Camille or Marav, do you guys have anything else to share in on this conversation? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. If you do, just come off mute, let us know. But I do feel like this does tie into it because I want to talk a bit about the chakra system. Um, I had so to share, I was having a conversation with somebody, it was last week, and we were talking about the chakras and aligning them.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, where, if I looked at an x-ray, where would I see these? And it's the best question ever, because it was an open door to really talk about what our chakra system is, and like what is it, and you know, and like, and how can you use it in your meditations and visualizations, and really opening up the imagination, right?
Yeah.
So I was just curious about what like your opinion is about the chakra system, because you know, I say us healers, we focus a lot on the chakra system. We get you in alignment. It's like it's all about the energy of that chakra system.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Oh, thank you for this question. I'm so excited to talk about this. And interrupt me if I start to go on too long, even. I'll try to pause throughout. I I approach the chakra system first as a psychological framework and then as like actual my metaphysical energy. And I
Yes.
do that so that because I do have I still am like totally immersed in the cultural paradigm that I'm in. And I love science. And I was trained in academia and in healthcare. So like I still for myself like to approach things first from my logical brain.
Mhm.
That's and like notice where sometimes my logical brain, sometimes I have to tell it like this is not your job right now and I need to lead with my heart. And I don't understand what I'm doing, but I need to lead with my heart. But like otherwise, I am so used to leading with my logical brain. And so I give it that first as a psychological framework. And if we just start there, the chakra framework offers a a system of seeing yourself beyond a box of who we think we need to be. And I'll give the example of like growing up. I grew up from 13 to 20. I was really involved in the church and I was really spiritual and really intuitive and got messages that to be a good woman was to serve. And like being a natural empath and being a natural intuitive and being a natural helper, and then getting cultural messages that my duty was to serve, I really lost my sense of self. In my 20s, I made a lot of decisions that were completely about supporting someone else's life mission. And I really saw myself in a helper role and in an inferior type of role of like that would be selfish for me to live my own life. I need to help other people. Where can I serve? I'm so blessed. Where can I serve? I need to help other people. And so I'm like almost drawing from my own cup and I got really depleted and I hit a point where I finally heard myself say out loud, like, I am so unhappy with everything in my life. And at first I felt shame because I was like, well, where's my gratitude for all the good things? But it just like, it was me ignoring my intuition for so long of, this isn't right for me. This isn't right for me. This isn't right for me. But I was still doing it because I was like, well, he needs me and they need me and I need to do that and I need to serve and I need to be a good person. And so I was just confused about what it was to be a good person in how I understood spirituality. And I felt like I either had to choose between, thank you, Camille's heart. I either had to choose between spirituality or what I perceived to be the dominant American paradigm, which was consume and be a badass bitch. And so I was like, well, I don't really like resonate with that. I more resonate with the spiritual stuff. So that's my option. And the chakras gave me this right away. They gave me a framework where it was like, no, you can have an open heart and be loving and forgiving, and you can be intuitive and connected to spirit and have boundaries and embody your own perspective and like enjoy pleasurable moments and have your own identity. And so it was really the first thing like for me that gave me that soothing, you can be spirit and human at the same time because you are that. So it just is so juicy to me. It's so like life-giving, where like how beautiful is that? And where it is I can be that expansive spiritual self and still be my own person. So that to me is like the gorgeous thing about it that I haven't found in any other religion, or even though like I wouldn't consider chakras religious at all, but that I haven't found in a spiritual practice that says this is good for you to be your whole self. And so that is the number one thing that I love about it and how I approach it from a psychological perspective first.
Oh, I love it. I'm like, you and I speak the same language because
Yeah.
I'm the same way too. Like sometimes the logical mind and the spiritual mind, they kind of start to fight. And I'm like, no, 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 wait a minute. Like, let's bring this together and see how incredible this can be. But
Mhm.
I love your perspective on the chakra system. Like it really, you're absolutely right. We can be human and we can be spiritual and we can be that all encompassing, all in one.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah.
truth and in my opinion, that is our badass self, right? Like that truly is our superpower in coming here. Like we get the opportunity to be both, not
Oh
one
yeah.
or the other. We get to be both. And I just and to have, like you said, and to enjoy the things that are pleasurable in our life, to step into our empowerment and not feel inferior to other people. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. I'm gonna open it up. Do any of you guys have any questions or comments or anything?
I do, but it totally slipped my mind.
Well, if it comes back, let us know. Oh my gosh, I do love it. You know, I am gonna open it up. Do you guys does anybody in our audience, do you guys have any questions? Do you have anything that you want to share at all? They're like, nope, not yet.
I have a question for the audience too, because this is something that I have been feeling into quite a bit, and it relates to the chakras, where one of the things I feel like we get when we honor our human and spiritual self is, oh, I'm at first I'm scared of being selfish if I do what I want and if I embrace pleasure and if I choose to do something because I want to do it, even if it might like not be the best thing for someone else. I still have a do no harm mantra for myself, but
Me
there's
too.
but like, you know, I get to choose because it's my life and I get to do what's best for me. And so at first there that feels a little bit of selfish, but my experience is like I think you can give more. Like, I can give more from the overflow when I have really taken care of myself. And I love that concept and am just exploring beyond just the logical part of it. Like, what does that look like and feel like in reality? And I'm curious what you all think about that concept of give from the overflow and what your experience of it is. And you too, Kelly.
Okay. I'm like, I have an opinion, but I wanted to see if they do first.
Okay.
Oh, Marav
I
came
have
off.
request,
Yes.
actually.
Go ahead, Marav.
Well, at least on my end, you froze up. So the last thing I heard was what to think about the idea of giving from the overflow, but I don't know what you said after that.
I just explained it deeper. So but that is the question.
Yeah, you're on the right path.
You're on it. Mm-hmm.
Well, of course it makes sense because, if you're giving not from your overflow, then at some point your whatever cup or I don't know, bucket will be empty. And then, I mean, what good are you if you, well, what good are you, but I mean, it's like, it's not my idea. I'm just, okay, now that I blacked out, but other people said it before me. It's like on the, sorry, when you fly and they have the video, when the oxygen mask drops, put yours first and then help other people because, I mean, if you don't put yours first, then you're knocked out. And then, you're knocked out. You're not good to anybody. You can't help anybody. So, I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense.
Great point.
Yes, I'm a great example. Yeah, absolutely. Mine does kind of piggyback on that because when you were sharing your story about being in your 20s and being in service, right? In our minds is, and I really think it has become a societal thing where we're like, service means you give, you overgive, and all you do is just give. And the moment that you want to go take a nap, you're being selfish, right? But I
Or
think,
lazy.
yes, or lazy, absolutely. But what you described about, the overflow and, and to Marav's point, I feel like that's where service really starts to begin, when, you know what I mean, when we can be of service, because we have to be able to take care of ourselves in the right way. Because if we don't, if we're, like Marav said, if we're empty, then when we're sitting with somebody and, like, let's say they're coming to us for help, then we're not really giving them, in my opinion, we're not really giving them all. Like, if I'm coming to you and I'm only half healthy, and then I'm trying to tell you, this is like, I'm trying not to tell you, but support you in your healing, then the container that I'm holding is only half filled with energy. So how well am I really supporting you? Do you know what I mean? So I think that we need to switch the paradigm of what service really means and switch it to, how am I a service to myself? Because once I'm a service to myself, it will naturally ripple out and I become then a service to others in all of the best ways, right? So
That's beautiful.
yeah, so cool. Good question. Marav, you have another comment?
Also, obviously, I mean, when you're not in overflow, then your focus is in yourself. How can I get better? Your focus is on your own problems because, I mean, naturally that's what you see. But when you are taken care of, then again, naturally, I mean, that's our base. When you're taken care of, then, okay, how can I help this one? How can I help that one? What can I do for my community? How can I serve?
Yeah, because like exactly what you're saying, because if you're 100% taken care of, you don't have to worry about you. And now, you can serve your community, you can serve other people, take care of your family. So, oh, I love it. That was a great question. Does anybody else have any comments or anything that they want to share about that? Camille.
I do. I I have seen in different clients when they were having difficulty with the concept of serving, it was a lot of mothers because they didn't know how to let go of the fact that they have to serve others and they always put themselves last. So the difficulty for them was changing that paradigm in the fact that they needed to be first. And I saw that a lot in the older generation, like my mother and my grandparents, and probably some of my generation too. Um, and then you have the ones that are like, no, you're perfectly fine. The mother's like, you're perfectly fine, go and fend for yourselves. And the children are like, what? You didn't give me anything. It's like, but you need to fend for yourself. You need to understand how to really stand on your own. So I found that to be quite interesting. On a lot of the people pleasing came from a lot of the mothers who didn't understand that now it's their turn. Your kids are grown up. You don't need to be that bird, that mother bird that is feeding them the worms from their mouth.
Mm.
I do, if I can, I want to piggyback off of that. I was having a conversation with someone that was from an older generation, and they were talking about our youth of today and about how they in a nutshell, they were saying like they're just very selfish, absorbed. They're all about taking care of me first, and like everything that we're kind of talking about, that old paradigm. And I look at my son, and my son is part of that generation. And when I take a step back from it and I watch, I'm like, yeah, there are moments where we would consider that being very self-absorbed or being lazy, right? Or being whatever label that you want to look at it. But then when I also take another, like really look at it, I feel like, and I may get massacred for this, but I do feel like our younger generation is really reteaching us and our older generations what it means to take care of yourself first and then give. Because I have my son is he's 19, so he's still kind of in that in between, but with all of his friends. And when I listen to the conversations that they're having, they're very different than conversations that I had when I was younger with my friends. They're conversations about, well, how can I make the world a better place? They're talking about bigger, more important, like big causes, important causes that, and then I think that's when I really realized, well, they're doing it right, because their idea is I'm going to take care of myself. And when I am at that 100% and I can give, imagine what I can give versus, the generation that I grew up in. I mean, we were just surviving. I'm a Gen Xer. So we were just trying to survive. We were drinking out of hoses, and playing on metal stuff in the park. But like I really sit back and I feel like they truly are kind of the poster board for what it is that we talk about of what service really means. Like, you know what? I do need to take this nap because later on I'm going to go give this big service. And if I'm not well, then I can't give my all. You know what I mean? So it was an interesting conversation that I had with this person, and us, going back and forth, sharing our perspective. And it was a really good conversation, but it really let me take a step back to look at, like the generations that are coming up, and even the younger ones. They are about them, but they also have a bigger, like, it's almost like they have a bigger mission. And so they understand the importance of servicing me first, then I can service in all of the best ways possible. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that because and my mind shifted in that, because sometimes I tell my son, I'm like, you're lazy, get up. And he's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, just get up. I need you to empty the trash or get something out of the cabinet for me, but I need you to get up. But you know what I mean? Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff in the way that our world is moving. I'm excited to be a part of it and to, you know, and to share what I can do, the things that I can do for it. But most importantly, watch the shift that's happening, because it's going to be it's going to be a big one and a big difference than what we've been so used to. And it's going to be cool. So, okay. I know that we are over on our time, but I really do want to I want to ask you one more question, because I feel it's really important to going back to your business. I would love to hear what your vision is for your online community that you have. And, you know, I would like you to share that so other people can hear about it and what you're creating.
Thank you. And it so goes along with what we're talking about, because even this point of like my mom, I've had a lot of conversations with my mom, who is very much a people pleaser. And sometimes it can turn into like, well, I feel like you're telling me not to be a people pleaser, and I like it when other people are happy, and that's who I am. And so there's like an interesting invitation, even in for someone who feels like I've been people pleasing all my life, and now you're telling me that I should be more selfish and take care of myself, which isn't really what it is. But you know how like wherever you are, it's gonna sound a certain way, and that's how it sounds to my mom. And it's kind of like, oh no, you know, this whole thing is an invitation to enjoy yourself more, to enjoy your own experience, to be curious about you, to bring in all those parts of you instead of like, you know, feeling like some parts are bad. And so it circles back to where it's all connected in that way. And my vision really is women and empaths in particular taking all of this love and energy that they have for other people and investing that little bit into themselves, where like visually it looks like more people, instead of giving all the clothes off their back, the skin from them, and like getting to that kind of drained, burnt out state, giving to themselves where they are lit up and have this energy to create and to love, and that can 10x what their can 10x their capacity because of that feeling of being lit up. And I feel like when that happens, the world is so different. It's so different, and it really excites me. And it's happening with other people too. And so I feel like my heart's work is like a nice subgroup, like little small group of people that I get to help with, because sometimes it helps for someone else to see that, to see you out, you are so powerful. For women who are helpers, who are so powerful, it's like, well, I'm not really that powerful. I'm just able to help other people, but being able to see it and then them go through some meditation experiences and find that in themselves, like, I am powerful. I love myself. I love this experience. This is so cool being alive, and look what I get to create, instead of like, I have to do all these things to survive and I have to beat the system. Like there's that shift of feeling turned on is my vision. And the way I do it is through chakra work. And so it's like for people that align with that, I'm here for it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. You know, I always, when I talk to people, I'm like, tell me what it is that you do that lights your fire. Like, how, like, what is that burning desire that you have? Oh, and I love it. And, you know, and I always love when there's women empowering and uplifting women. So
Yeah.
that's incredible community that you are creating. Oh, well, I'm like, I'll send people to you, because yeah, I think that's the space that we're in, right? Is really helping women like, I'm going to say rediscover how incredible you are, because you know, when we come out knowing, honestly knowing that we're perfect and we're pretty awesome, right? That's like, little kids, they always have big inflated egos, but the truth is they just know their worth. They know what they are. And especially women, a lot of girls at a young age that get squashed down, and to be able to reignite that so that they can see that, I think is beautiful. So thank you for bringing that work to all of us, because it does create a ripple effect. So awesome. So I want to lead that into your donation gift that you're giving. It's the Alive Masterclass. Would you like to explain what people will receive from you when they donate?
Sure. The Alive Masterclass is some of the concepts that we've talked about, nice and condensed into 3 modules that are, range from about 30 to 45 minutes each. And there's a worksheet that comes with it, and there's a free call that comes with it. And it goes through some evidence-based principles of what we have available to us that we know is grounded in science for feeling alive. And then we do get into some visualization with the chakra work as well. Alive is an acronym too. It stands for basically anchor/accept. I'll have to go. I forget actually but when you sign up for it, you'll see what the acronym stands for. It's super fun. It's super fun.
Yes. So please sign up. And most importantly, to experience Stephanie, experience her work. And I'm like, I love it. I'm going to be like, and come alive into the person that you're supposed to be. But most importantly, experience her work, because, like I said, like every time that we get an opportunity to work with somebody and just, it's incredible, and it ripples out. It all ripples out. I'm like, that's what I want. It just to ripple out to everyone. And we really do all benefit from it. So yes, please, do her Alive Masterclass, experience Stephanie, call her, work with her. I encourage it. Yes. And be part of her community. It's so empowering just hearing you talk about it. I like, as you're talking about it, I could feel myself being like, yes. So I could imagine what it would be like to be part of that community after just hearing it. All right. So we are over on our time. Thank you so much for sticking around. Everybody in the audience for sticking around, just having this really awesome conversation with everyone. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very mind expanding, the conversation that we had. So I always welcome those deep conversations. So a huge thank you to you, Stephanie, for coming on, sharing your message and your insight, and just being part of this program, and all of, and everyone that's on live today, and everyone else that will be listening at a later time. Thank you so much for everything, your support. It means so much to me and everybody in this community. And you know what? Until next week, we'll have another fun conversation. So until then, everyone, bye. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye.
Thank you so much.